So in the last 3 seconds, your brain has already assessed who I am. You've assigned a judgment to me, either likable, not likable, reminded me of Susie from 8th grade, the one that was nice to you, or the one that wasn't so nice. Reminded you of a cheerleader that you might have wanted to have been, or never wanted to have been. Our brains are wired to judge, but they're not judging in an intentionally bad way. They're wired to connect pieces of information from our past and to connect them to pieces in the future or the present. You're judging my book from the cover. You're judging me based on my voice intonation, my facial expressions, and what I'm wearing right now. Now, in 2015, I did an entire TEDx talk on how to apply neuromarketing to increase your appeal and desirability. Imagine taking all the information that I've learned in my corporate career and having the pressure of standing on the red circle, which messes with your mind. It is stressful. Anybody done a TEDx? Anybody desire to do a TEDx? The pressure of that condition on our brains, there are things that are super important to you and things that are maybe less important. In that case, I had grown up through college. I forget when TED came on board, but I've watched so many TED speakers and I've learned so much. Anybody else watch TED Talks besides the ones you saw? So some really impressive, thought-provoking speeches. The other thing about a TED Talk is it's constrained to a time constraint. So in talking to Ben, he said, now, manage your time. You have this much time. I want you to talk like Ted. And I thought, okay, he's increasing my adrenaline more than I would normally do because I'm used to presenting this content to a lot of folks. My normal audience, my audience last week in Dallas was to retail executives. We had GameStop, we had Zales, we had a bunch of folks who are interested in applying this into their own environments. We had on the what we call the consumer packaged goods. So I'm going to spend a little time with you talking through some of the things we've learned. At PepsiCo, about 10 years ago, we started something called the Smart Learning Center. It's a 40,000 square foot facility, had all the security cameras to do the mining of traffic flows, to really get very, very close to understanding how somebody was really focused on packaging, on merchandising, and all the things that are in a typical store. We then opened 4 neuro labs with 64 sensor medical grade EEG equipment and eye tracking. Now, there were some fast followers, Coca-Cola, P&G, and a few others, but PepsiCo started the science, the neuroscience applied to business. And so now we're about 10 years into it. What I'm going to share with you is some of the insights that we've learned over the course of this time. Now, this is exactly what happens to you as a buyer, or you as a guest or a consumer. You know you want something, but you're not sure why. You might have some logical reasons that you come up with after the fact, but the reality is you're operating in a want or buy mode before you're even consciously aware of it. Now, guys and gals, if you've ever walked into a bar environment in your single days, and some of you might be single now, you've done exactly this. Your brain has connected to people in that room, and it's deselected people in the room. Too cute, not obtainable, too ugly, and take a lot of beers. In the middle is the things that you're attracted to. And that is based on your history of who you are. Now, I'd like all the ladies to stand up. All the ladies in the room, please stand up. Okay, I come out of a lot of industries where this is about the proportion. But I have a lot of pressure today because I'm representing the female 78% of decision-making buying power globally, and I'm standing on the stage representing you. So I'm hoping that I can make one point that you'll remember forever. The male and female brain is different. right? Kind of a chuckle moment, duh, right? Okay, can't believe that. No, it's really, really different. 90% of the time, a female brain is going to respond differently to a male brain in this technology. We see it. The way you respond to a commercial, print, pricing. Remember how we come up with a promotional deal? We saved you money because we bought 2 for 1. We saved you money. We have a way of rationalizing what we're doing, how we're approaching it. In this industry, you are the keeper, in most cases, the ones who organize the occasions that matter in your family. You're the keeper of the institutional knowledge of your family. Now, guys, if you are the one that organizes all the birthday parties, I want you to stand up, and all those special events, stand up, because it is possible you are that person too. Let's give him a round of applause. But the point is, do you see what you see in the room? The majority of the memories are being captured and being created by the females. So my point is, let's make sure we're capturing what their viewpoint is and how they make decisions. Thank you very much. We have a challenge across all industries because we think we're all rational. If you think you're really rational, raise your hand. Maybe an accountant, you use a 2-step process, you have a decision criteria. Yeah, that's what you tell us when we interview you. It's what your stated response is. But that is most likely going to be driven by irrational, real response. So you're responding to things that you love. It's like buying a certain car, buying a certain product, a branded product versus a non-branded product. There is something about that that's drawing you to that that's probably irrational. The other thing is what people say and what they're actually doing, their behavior and what they're processing are all very different. So our research methods have actually been a little bit clunky in the past. We've leaned too much on what people say. We've moved to ethnography and behavioral, so we actually have cameras that can track movement through. Some of you guys might have some of those technologies that allow you to get some metrics. But the reality is we can't capture what's going on in the head. The emotion. Now we have Bill, and Bill did a really good job last night. We use tools though if you don't have Bill's skills and abilities. Now maybe after the next presentation he'll have given you some of those skills. But in the meantime, we're going to rely on some of the things we've learned. This is my investment for the company. It's a vault of human understanding. Luckily, we're housed in a bank vault. Works really nice. In a bank vault, there is lots of, remember those old time, what were they, the boxes? Safety deposit boxes. What did you do in a safety deposit box? What did you put in there? Valuables. You locked them up with a key and then you stored them away forever. And you hope you didn't lose the key. That's exactly what happens in our heads. We have experiences and emotions and reactions to brands, to places, and to things that are really special to us, but it's hard to get to them, and we don't all know if they exist or not. So neuromarketing is a word that is newer in the United States than it is globally, but it's the intersection of neuroscience, psychology, and behavioral economics. Is anybody aware of behavioral economics, what that is? Okay, that is a TED Talk I want you to watch. Watch any of Dan Ariely's stuff. He's MIT, now at Duke. He's a fabulous TED Talker, and he talks about irrational. He's got lots of books. Predictably Irrational. Love it. He's got books on the ethics, the irrational ethics. It's a starting place to understand how we pay more for things that don't make sense. Or how we'll buy if you establish price, a high price and a low price, why we'll move to what we're trying to get you to buy. So we've got that science to lean on to in terms of pricing strategies, bundling, merchandising. So now let me take you through this. These are 16 sensor, when I get to the next one, 16 sensor EEG. And that's what we're using. It's Bluetooth. We could hook you up right now, take a volunteer, maybe put Ben's brain on the Jumbotron, and I could have content for him and see how he reacts to it. I try to use it for good and not evil, but if you're interested in using it for alternative purposes and you want to tap into somebody's brain, we could do that too. We show content, we show experiences, and we're measuring emotion. I'm not here to show you that, but we do have access to that. If you go to marketingbrainology.com, we have lots of video examples, and they are humorous because it is funny to watch the difference between the male brain and the female brain reacting. But what we do get out of it is how it's the evidence, it's the science piece. What did they do? Did they see it? If you created, say, a digital sign that you spent X amount on, you're trying to understand, did they actually see it? Did they engage? If you have other pieces of your amusement area that is of value and you want to see, do I get my return on that? Eye tracking is one of the best measures for capturing what people actually see. And clue number one, if they don't see it, it cannot register, or typically doesn't. If it does register, but they didn't see it through this kind of head-on, it's possible it's in the peripheral. So things like the lighting and the smell is being absorbed in the what we call non-conscious. And that would show up on our EEG. Because that's when we introduce music or we introduce a scent, we can see it. The frontal lobe will light up, it'll be red. We use heat mapping and we use of the 16, we show 4 of them real-time, millisecond by millisecond, for anything they're seeing. So now I want to take you through the rest of the time what we've learned. And the first thing that I want you to see is that we are creating memories. And those memories are about immersing and engaging. You are a fantastic category because you're about building memories. And those memories are gonna last a lifetime, hopefully, if done well. So I have a party. There's things that you can do, and we've heard about it, so it's not just applicable to merchandising, but anticipation is one of the best human conditions ever because we look forward to an event. Now raise your hand if you look forward to going to the Chateau Elan. Anybody look forward to it? Now, this is one of those conditions because you didn't come here with your children and there wasn't a lot that you had to manage other than what you wanted to do. So your actual experience is probably going to be pretty good. But a lot of times, the anticipation is a higher emotional state than the actual occurrence. And that applies to Disney and a lot of those. So what is important is that your recall of a situation can often be greater than it actually was also. And we know that through the psychology. So the good thing is that you can actually build a memory that lasts a lifetime through your merchandising. So I think it's time to take the redemption room and expand out. And that's what grocery has done. Our aisle wasn't our limitation. Perimeter, sidekicks, the temporary merchandising, all has a role. And let me take you through some examples. So when we take and build an immersive experience, we are engaging shoppers by their preferences and really knowing who your audience is. This is an example of merchandising, but what makes it different is that it's got the visuals breaking up. So if you think about punctuation in a sentence, I want you to think about when you're merchandising, you have to create shoppable sections. So wherever you are, do you create a comma? Because the brain needs to organize content in a way that helps us see things in small chunks. That's why the themes that we heard about, George talked about themes. Themes work well because I can organize and wrap my brain around a theme. When we put everything together, it's like a run-on sentence. So I just want you to think about that. Priming. Priming is something that, if you remember, nothing else besides the male and the female brain are different at the 90% level. Priming. Priming is just using a visual cue. We were primed last night. How were we primed before Bill got up? Well, okay. Alcohol, yes. How else were we primed? The numbers on the wall. You can do that. You can prime them. You could send a text to prime them what's coming up. Remember, things in the future, something to look forward to. Kids love to look forward to something. So prime them and make sure that you're giving visual cues outside of the redemption room about the new stuff. You can increase sales within the redemption room and elsewhere by just putting new, the sign new. Just put a little sign new. Bump it out, put a frame around it so it gets special attention. These are simple strategies. Wanting to condition somebody to think beer is healthy. I put some limes by the beer. I put guacamole next to Tostitos. These are strategies to put things that go together. So priming and predisposing, and then being deliberate about that strategy. I want to show you this. Digital is a way that I think can change a lot of things in the redemption room and elsewhere. So digital allows you to communicate in a relevant way. So if we could run this example. This increased sales, I think they said 60%, by just putting a little digital signage on top of what was a typical produce section. Digital's here, digital's less expensive, and running your new content to help them anticipate what's back there as a goal. Kids are very goal-oriented. Priming, some other examples, bringing them to think about something they hadn't thought about. What's a new usage occasion for your facility besides birthday parties? It's this, people want an excuse to gather, so creating new ways, in this case, cueing baking. It's bigger than one category, it cues an entire event. Queuing using mobile, queuing using secondary locations for merchandising. These are strategies. This is a strategy that you see beer companies, soda companies, and chip companies do a lot of. It's clever, it's unique. Could you do it yourself using some of your own redemption items? The last thing, I've got a couple more examples I want you to think about, is we see things in a clockwise pattern. That's the way an English-speaking culture will see it. And time again, we see this. Images should go on the left, words on the right. So overall with your communication, next time you do a slide presentation, if you need to do one, think about the creative part of your right side of your brain is the creative part, is gonna flip visually and be on the left side. So it's got this flip-flop thing going. So we know from studies, the one on the right with the farmer on the left side is a higher effectiveness score and more effective at communicating, because we will be drawn to other human beings, the graphic. Motion and graphics, then words. You are selling an experience, but you're selling an outcome, which is the tickets or the card leads to a prize. So all of the words that normally pop up, consider leaving them, but motion is a great use. Again, digital works well for that. And think about color. What are your color cues and how are you communicating? Now this deck will be available, so I'm not gonna go into great detail, but red does work. Red stops, red's a visual cue. And so are some of the other colors. So depending on what you're trying to communicate, there is proven science behind the color. Richer experiences. This is what you're trying to do. And let me go back to that one real quick. Engaging the senses. If you haven't considered using scent in your location in certain locations, I would highly recommend the use of scent. I did hear some people are using it. Anybody use scent to create? All right. Sparking curiosity. Your visual aids don't have to include the perfect display. Create intrigue, some puzzle piecing where some visual fascination, where it makes them their brains work a little bit harder than normal. Allow interaction. Anything, there's actually software that takes the security cameras and it overlays a metric that will allow you to come up with a smile metric. It's being used. You get a 2016 smile metric as an employee. It's part of your overall evaluation, and you can compare that to a goal or objective you might have in 2017. Our brains, the impact of a smile and eye contact is huge. It's huge. So that's something, even in your redemption room, those personnel, your staffing of that room, because that's the best part of the experience. That's the reward, the golden ticket. Last is, I've mentioned digital. Digital is being used a lot to create intriguing content. And if you've noticed Red Bull, anybody notice the coolers and cold vaults and you're starting to see more communication now? That's something that you can do to create additional intrigue in your redemption rooms. And last is nostalgia. Balancing those old memories. What I heard somebody earlier mention trolls. Whenever you can create a connection between generations, between the parent who's experiencing something and the kid who's learning about that memory that you had. You're anticipating and building that memory together now because you're sharing something that was important to you as a child. So anytime you can take somebody back to an experience, the more you're going to create a connection point. And allowing interactions that you wouldn't normally see. So Crayola is one that has been doing a lot with interaction. So I'll leave you there. What I want you to think about is our brains are reacting to stimuli. Are you deliberate? Do you have a strategy? What are you laddering up to? We talked about that at our tables. How do you differentiate? You should be clear what you stand for. Do you deliver happiness? Do you deliver what kind of experience? What is it at the end of the day when they leave, whether it's your merchandising or your total experience, what is it that they are going to remember if you've done it well? And it's not the roller coaster, it's not the bowling alley. It's all of that is about an experience, a memory that matters. Thank you.